So this video is going to be about liberalism and why it fails, and why it is ultimately an ideology for children. Um, in order to talk about liberalism, you've got to understand what it is. Liberalism, let's go with the historical approach, right? Liberalism is the ideology that emerged post Enlightenment, along with the Industrial Revolution, and capitalism, and all these things kind of came together. But the idea of liberalism is that you want a government, a state that doesn't interfere in the lives of ordinary people too much, because you want people to be free. Now that's like that's like the most basic form of liberalism, really, right? But notice that wanting the state to not intervene doesn't really tell you much about what sort of society you do want. That's one of the first fundamental issues with liberalism. That liberalism wants to, at the same time, say, well, no, I'm not an ideology. I mean, I just want, like, the government to chill and kind of let people vibe and do their own thing. While in reality, as all people who study politics would know and be aware of, politics is about the distribution of resources. Therefore, if you are advocating for a state which doesn't actively interfere within individuals' lives, whatever that means, then how are resources distributed? And the answer to that question is very simple. It's capitalism. So liberalism ultimately is, I've been thinking about this. I've been thinking if I should take the approach of saying liberalism isn't an ideology, or liberalism is, but it's a bad ideology. And I ultimately chose it's a bad ideology because ideologies can be bad too. But liberalism, more than an ideology, is a rationalization mechanism for capitalism. If you ask me, the reason that liberalism emerged in that sort of a way is because liberals, towards the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, all that, were focused on how to make capitalism work, what the government needed to do for capitalism to work. At the time, the government really just needed to shut the fuck up, leave people alone, and capitalism kind of figured itself out. But there's an issue with capitalism, which actually really explains why liberalism's attachment to capitalism makes it dysfunctional, which is that capitalism, unlike liberalism, has a survival mechanism. Capitalism is about the distribution of resources explicitly and singularly. As capitalists accumulate resources from their laborers, they then go, well, I kind of want to keep these resources. Maybe I should spend some of these resources on making sure I should keep them. Capitalism is a system that entrenches itself, that grows more powerful with time. Liberalism, given that it is attached to capitalism like a sort of parasite that claims, oh, well, all capitalism needs is a little bit of me and we'll be okay. Liberalism doesn't have any survival mechanism. So liberalism ends up being subsumed by capitalism. And what ends up happening is that liberalism stops existing and the capitalism is all you're left with. Liberalism, in that way, it's a capitalist realist ideology. It's an ideology that believes in nothing but capitalism, nothing but market forces determining the best outcomes. And I think a really good example of this is something like human rights. So what are human rights? Question we must ask. Human rights are the rights of people to exist, to not be tortured, to not be sexually exploited, to not be enslaved, to not be mutilated, to not be imposed upon. I mean, you could think of this with things like the libertarian non-aggression principle in mind, right? But what do liberals do to protect human rights? What the fuck Now, in America, for example, right? The idea is that when citizens are discontent or feel discontent with their government, when they have grievances, they're going to organize and oppose their government loudly. And luckily, liberalism allows this, right? Liberal capitalist democracies, the big term in poli-sci, they allow this, right? Well, what happens if they don't? Nothing. Liberalism doesn't do anything. When the very functions that make liberalism even conceptually reasonable, when those institutions and when those activities become impossibilized, when they're legislated against, when institutions are eroded or co-opted or whatever it may be, liberalism doesn't have a response. And that's because liberalism is not an ideology. At least not an ideology for anyone my age. And the reason I wanted to make a video about liberalism and the fact that it isn't an ideology is because I am truly very concerned. Because this ideology will get us all killed. Quite frankly, it's horrible. It's just bad. And if you're my age, I have friends who are liberals, and I'm trying as hard as I can to explain to them why this ideology doesn't work. But I think the better thing to do in situations like these is not to critique, but to offer alternatives. Now, when it comes to my political philosophy, I'm sure I've mentioned before, I'm a socialist, but I don't really take any particular school or branch of socialism. I don't really care about any of that stuff. That's stupid. It's extremely stupid if you ask me. Because the number one goal of socialism is to deconcentrate power. And because deconcentrated power is power that is difficult to wield. And power that is difficult to wield is the only kind of power that's safe. What liberalism and capitalism do together is that they work together to take away all of the power of individuals, right? Capitalism does so directly by alienating people from their work, which means when you go to work, you spend 8 hours of your day, and I mentioned this in another video as well, your life is just the things that you do every day. And if every single day of your life, or 5 out of 7 days, which is very many days of your life, you go to work for 8 whole hours a day, well, it's a huge part of your life that is stolen from you. And what are they doing with that? Now, that's what capitalism does. Capitalism is the theft, and liberalism is the sweet little nothings whispered into your ear to justify the theft. And that's not sustainable for the future. We have serious problems that we face ahead as people like myself who are involved in politics, but as a fucking species. I mean, shit is getting critical, and we have to be clear-eyed about these sorts of things. We have to see past the facades that have been established by old eras of politics. And so, when I say I'm a socialist and I want to deconcentrate power, what I mean is that it should be difficult for your power to be wielded not without or without your consent. Yes, that is my point. And there are a number of ways I think we get there. I think the number one thing, the most important thing, is education. And this is exactly what I mean when I say liberalism has no survival mechanism. What is capitalism without education? Capitalism without education is slavery. That is it's not even, capitalism is already slavery. But if you take away the education, the pretense is gone. There's no idea that people are logically and rationally engaging in these mutually beneficial relationships that just so happen to make one party a billionaire and the other party kind of poor and sad, but mutually beneficial. Capitalism without literacy, without education, it's slavery. And so why is it that our education systems have been, or in the United States at least, have been eroding over the last 50 years, or maybe 35-ish, 40, with no proper response? Unacceptable. In the society that I believe we need to build, we need to focus, we need to have a great emphasis on education. On top of that, we need, beyond just educating people, we need people to have the means of controlling their own lives in their hand. What we need to do is understand how capitalism functions. So capitalism seeks, obviously, to take, to spread to other aspects of life and things like that, right? But what capitalism really wants, or what it needs in order to do that, it needs to have nothing opposing it. Capitalism hates a disruption, as this crisis in the Strait of Hormuz exposes. Capitalism is fucked right now. Capitalism is so cooked. And it's so cooked that they're pretending it's not cooked for the sake of feeling better. Donald Trump keeps going, believe me, folks, the Strait is going to open. We're going to open it tomorrow. It's going to be great. The Iranian people, they love me. And that's not going to fucking work. But nonetheless, here we go. The Strait's totally open. Oil is only $1. I've never seen oil so cheap. It's beautiful. I drink it out of a cup. It's wonderful. It's beautiful, cheap oil. And that's the cope that we have. But that shit doesn't work because capitalism abhors impediments. Because capitalism doesn't function without those. It's not able to deliver on all of its various promises, which are necessarily very threadbare because of the nature of the system. And so what we need to do is introduce friction for capitalism, make it difficult for capitalism to infest and destroy the world. That's something liberals haven't engaged in, again, because liberalism is not an ideology. It is a rationalization mechanism for capitalism itself. So when I say introduce friction to capitalism, what I mean is minimum wages, high minimum wages, very high minimum wages. I think right now we should have a $20 minimum wage in California. And I think nationally it should probably be at least 15. It should definitely be at least 15. It should have been 15 like a decade ago, but actually, fuck it then. 25 in California and 20 nationally. That's how I feel. On top of which, you need to decommodify to the greatest extent possible. The threat of poverty, of being destitute, of being a useless piece of shit because you don't have a job is the number one reason that people have jobs. That's dumb. That's dumb because there are important things that we need our labor to contribute in society. And the idea that people are making decisions about what kind of labor they will spend their life force on what allows them to survive most effectively in a system designed to make it impossible to survive without choosing the most evil things is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We need high minimum wages. We need shorter work weeks. We need to reduce the work week from 40 hours. I would say I'm really feeling 25 hours. And I say this for a number of reasons, but it's another point how liberalism fails. We have in our country an epidemic, a fucking onslaught of what I call bullshit jobs, where people do not do anything. They produce no value. However, they exist within a supply chain. They exist within some corporate bureaucracy. They exist somewhere. And because they exist, and their job is real and their job pays them money, well, then we must need this job. But no, these are dregs. These are drags on the progress of humanity, and they need to be excised. We cannot allow these sorts of fake bullshit jobs to exist. And I guarantee you, if we deconcentrate labor, because this is what FDR was trying to do, or at least, I don't know, I read this probably in 10th grade, that when FDR introduced the 20-hour work week, obviously with pressure from labor unions and things like that, that his goal or his stated argument for doing so was that labor was too concentrated amongst people working too many hours, that we could have more people work less hours, accomplish the same amount of labor, while also having higher employment. We're witnessing the consequence of not addressing that same dynamic, which is that instead of companies voluntarily saying, well, how about this? We will cede some of our enormous power over your lives and over the direction of human civilization itself. We will cede that to you workers by giving you 5 more hours of your week that you didn't have previously. And we'll just hire more people. No. They would never do that. They would never do that. It's a threat to their power. Capitalists have survival instincts. Liberals don't. These things need each other. But one of them is going to take over. One is the junior partner and one is the senior partner. Liberalism is the junior partner. It's a fucking baby and it's going to get flushed down the toilet as it's happening. So I cut a liberal and a fascist bleeds. It's because liberalism is nothing but a little tool for capitalism. But yeah, we need to deconcentrate the labor pool as well. Very important thing that we're going to have coming. Obviously, universal education, things like that. I don't know. What I really think, I also believe state violence. We need to readdress how we consider state violence. In a country like the United States, especially, state violence is very normalized. But state violence is also very curious, right? Because we are not a normal country. People have so many fucking guns in this country, it's ridiculous. But somehow, the state's able to abuse us like every other country. It's like, we're at the same time the most well-armed population, and we go, our Second Amendment shit, we gotta have the guns, brother. And at the same fucking time, we don't use them. And, I don't want us to use them. That's not the point. My point is that we do accept when some people use them. And we love it. And we just go, oh, well, they had to stop the bad guy. I'm talking about police. We cannot have policing work the way that it works. Policing is bad. And policing helps enforce liberalism. Because what policing does, and I had a class here at UCSB. It was a very good class. And it was about policing. It was great, actually. And they talk about, oh, fuck, what's it called? It's something mentality. They talk about how policing, government mentality, how policing as an institution reinforces or creates permission structures in your brain that, oh, well, listen, these people are doing good work. They're assigned by the state. They're good people. Therefore, since they're not coming after me, I must be good people too. Shit. And whoever they're getting there, they got to be the bad ones. Fuck, because it's not me and it's not them. So it's got to be, there's a bad guy somewhere, right? We can't have this. We need to be actively involved with the well-being and safety of our communities. Policing itself, think about when people call the police, how people call the police. What does it mean to say, I'm going to call the police, there's trouble? It's not like people are calling the police, oh, there's an alien invasion. Somebody's dog got loose and it's attacking everyone, or there's a fucking lion. No. People call the police when they say, who's that person down there, brother? Looking awfully camouflaged in this beautiful night air. And that's how the police get called on people. It is a suspicion. It is a lack of trust. It's lack of community. Now, I don't necessarily believe in abolishing police. And not even because I think that we shouldn't, but it just seems like a fucking hassle. I don't think it matters enough to push so far for the abolishment. That being said, we cannot not allow for policing to continue to occupy the role it does in our brains, in our minds, in our souls. The important thing about governance, right, that I don't think that people are nearly conscious enough of, is that in governing, you are writing through legislation, through policy, through your actions as leaders, you're writing into the souls of citizens understandings of the world. And liberals don't care about that. They don't even pretend to engage in this project. It's embarrassing. It's horrible. But it's a project worth engaging in, because if for people to be good, and let me say what I consider good, I think to be a good person is to be a person who cares for others. I think it's the number one most important thing that humans do, is that humans recognize that in myself, there is a beating heart, there's a soul, and that when my heart stops beating, the soul goes away. Therefore, when people are reckless with violence, are reckless with the quieting of souls, with the elimination of heartbeats, you don't let them do that. You can't let them do that. That's what I think it means to be a good person, fundamentally. That being said, you need to be kind, be nice, all that stuff. But liberalism is dangerous, very dangerous ideology. And we need alternatives. We need alternatives because we are going to. The world's burning down. The world's burning down. And Gary Stevenson, influenced me quite a lot last year in this thinking. But the new world will be composed of the ideas lying around at the time. Get your ideas out there. Get them in here. Because we need something stronger, something better than liberalism. Otherwise, let me just be completely clear with how I see politics. If we do not defeat liberalism, the great evil, more evil than conservatism, because at least, well, conservatism is also liberal, which it's liberal, but it's better because it's liberal with some fucking survival instinct. That's what the liberals don't have. Liberals do not exercise, at least in America. Liberals don't exercise their survival instinct in order to preserve even the system they claim to believe in, because ultimately that system is capitalism. Capitalism, blah 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 blah. I mean, I see in the United States that becomes one of the most ruthless dying empires, as opposed to the United States that dies gracefully. I see it as one of the greatest tragedies of the history of human development and civilization, period. That the United States, over the time that it enjoyed, I mean, just unbelievable financial, military dominance of the planet, that the United States at no point in time was able to turn that flourishing into prosperity for all of its people. That the United States decided that some people we just don't give a fuck about, and we're never gonna give a fuck about them. They're not gonna make us money. Fuck them. I think that's bad. I think it's evil. And I think we have a very small window of time to, we're never going to right the wrongs of the United States. But what we can do is fucking land the plane smoothly, okay? This empire is falling, and I want this empire to fall gracefully, to fall into something better than what it was when it was at its peak. Because I think that's what the American people deserve. I think that's what I deserve. I think that's what my children, your children, everyone's children deserve. That being said, I think if liberalism is not defeated, I think the American empire is going to crash and fucking burn. As you can see right now in the Strait of Hormuz, this is one of the most ridiculous, wrong-headed, short-sighted moves ever. As I said, capitalism abhors friction. They can't do it. They can't do it. Why friction? No. Give me predictability. Give me stability. God damn it. Give me consistency. Give me the ability to say how many fucking workers I'm going to murder instead of having to figure it out on the fly. I hate math. Okay, that's how capitalism feels. You're going to fuck up the oil market, the energy, the number one basis of the entire fucking economy, not to mention the fertilizers, which are going to fucking go to the next crop the next year. Where are you going to get the workers? I mean, you're fucking up the whole planet. To topple Iran for human rights? Shut the fuck up. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Killing fucking thousands of Iranians for human rights. Okay, great. We're going to just get worse, though. We're going to spiral. And we're going to spiral into either some shit that must be contained by the rest of the world, or we're going to spiral into some shit that cannot be contained by the rest of the world, with the second one being the scarier of the two options. And the second one looking more like the option that we're choosing, especially given the fact that these liberal nations are completely reluctant to exercise some fucking discernment and shut our shit down. Because as Iran is showing, all countries have so much more power and leverage than what they may be made to believe. And we need to use our power and leverage as citizens within our country to make our country use its leverage globally to do good things instead of bad things. I think what Iran shows in its defiance and its resistance to U.S. imperialism, U.S. aggression against their people, against their government, which is long-standing. It didn't start fucking last week. It started 50 years ago now, or almost 50, 47. But Iran is showing that it is indeed possible to strive for more than just this bullshit. And I think that's a message that people should internalize, because we are in a fight for something much, much bigger than an election, much, much bigger than your favorite candidate. This is for humanity. And I think that's one of the things that's really not emphasized enough in our politics anymore. I think it's because, in large part, again, liberals do not care about humanity. They only care about capitalism. There's no ideology other than capitalism. Every creation is a tool to support and uphold capitalism, never to support and uphold humans, never to support and uphold democracy, none of that. Capitalism. It's always capitalism for liberals. And I just think that we have here the opportunity to remember that we're all human. We're all human beings, and we all deserve better from the fucking greatest species to ever do it. And we can't ever be the greatest species to ever do it if we continue this way. And I guess that's what I would say the biggest failure of liberalism is. It's a very rambly video. Actually, you know what? Since it's so rambly, I'll just go and tack on at the end a little bit more of my thoughts, just on like kind of what my approach is to this channel, because I kind of have some trouble with trying to. I do like when people watch my videos. I love it, actually. I'm like, oh my god, you watch my video? What? Like, what do you think? But it's also difficult to say, oh yeah, you should watch my video, because especially this last series that I recorded, the war series, which I haven't released all of, but they'll all be out. I'm probably going to release all of these videos at once, all of the war, the last two maybe, I think it is, of the war series, and then this one all at the same time. But I was a little bit sick when I made those, and I feel like they weren't super good. But what I really want out of this channel is practice. I'm getting practice. This is the warm up. And so, thank you to everyone who joins me at this stage, at this point in the ride. There's much more to come, much bigger, much better, much bigger, more importantly, to come. And right now, I'm just trying to, kind of get some fluency with my ideas. Turn them from something that exists as a sort of liquid within my head into something I'm really engaged with through having turned them into YouTube videos. And additionally to that, as I explain in this video, liberalism is a failure. And liberalism is a failure because I think this is one of the most structural features of what liberalism does. Is that liberalism wants you to believe that being intelligent has anything to do with politics. They're not fucking related. Moreover, intelligence, as we have constructed in the West, is again a tool for capitalism. Oh my god! Because what are the intellectual fields that we consider most worthwhile to pursue? Those are the hard technologies. And what do the hard technologies have use in? Industry, in weapons making, in things, in hard material fucking benefits for capitalists. And to the extent that we do not valorize those sorts of things, what do we valorize? Oh, you should go into PR. Oh, you should go into marketing. Oh, you should go into business. Our whole educational system is just a tool of capitalism. It's not real. And I think it's really embarrassing that so many people engage with politics as if the question is, do you know enough? As opposed to, what do you know? As opposed to, what do you believe? Because you don't need a fucking encyclopedia in your head. I may have one, but I'm not everybody. I want to be a fucking politician. Of course, I should know a lot of shit, sure. But people, by and large, don't need to be educated. Oh, you need to know about, did you know about what happened in 45? No. People need to understand very simple truths. And those simple truths illuminate the world for you. You don't need to have this fucking repertoire, this long backlog of 85 million video essays you've watched to understand the world. All you need is yourself. And for any sort of politics that is going to be durable in the future, you need people who are able to be inspired, who are able to be inspired by themselves, to find wonder within their own fucking souls, within their own existence, and turn that into something that you've never seen before. We cannot have a politics that's predicated on, oh, well, if you knew enough, then you would understand why striking Iran is actually important, because if you knew that in 1937 that when after Mossadegh, he killed, fucking bullshit. No, we need understanding, not knowledge, understanding. And what is there to understand about the world? So liberalism is evil. Okay, that's enough of this video. I do honestly feel like I'm a lot more coherent, if not energetic, at the very least, than in those war videos. But they'll go up regardless. I mean, is what it is. I'll figure out a strategy on how I want to approach content in the future. But again, one more time, thank you for those who have joined me at this point of my development. I do greatly appreciate it, and one day I'll be even more developed than this. Won't that be exciting?